What's up, y'all? Back here for day 7 of the 30-day question challenge. The idea here is that every day for 30 days, I'm going to I'm gonna answer a question a day, and the point of this is to get myself more practice for live streaming and creating content and just becoming a better speaker and a better host for my podcast. And also, I figured it'd be kind of fun to get on here, answer some questions that y'all have. They can be business related, they can be personal, work related. I'm a fireman, so anything pertaining to that, um, you know, whatever. They could be about anything, completely off the wall. As you know, if you've already seen some of these, we've answered, is a hot dog a sandwich, which is still a pretty hot topic in my household, um, between me and my wife. We've answered, would you rather, um, trying to remember. We've answered a bunch of questions already. 6 questions to be exact. Anyways, but again, like I said, the point of this is just to get practice, get exposure, have fun. So, like I've mentioned in the last 6 videos, I can generate the questions, but I think it'd be more fun if y'all provided the questions. So if you would like to provide a question for me to answer, you can drop your question down in the comments. You can also DM me if it's a question that you don't want everybody to know that you asked. I'm not going to mention any names. I'll keep it completely anonymous. Um, but yeah, I just thought it'd be fun to get you all involved and hop on here and just answer a question a day. It's completely informal. It's not supposed to be any big production. It's just hopping on here and answering a question real quick, 5-10 minutes at the most. So, like I said, that's the point of this is just get practice for my podcast. If you'd like to check the podcast out, you can click the link that just popped up on your screen. If you're watching this during the stream on a computer, I, you should be able to click that. I'm not sure about watching it on YouTube, on a TV, or on Facebook after the stream. I'm not sure about that, but you can find that on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. That's the Engine House is the name of it, or Engine House Podcast on YouTube. We're also on TikTok and Instagram at Engine House Podcast. And then you can also join the new community on Facebook, which is the Engine House. And every time an episode uploads, we're going to post it on that Facebook community group and we can continue the discussion there. So the podcast is really about, the conversations that we have in the firehouse amongst the guys and just emulating those conversations because we talk about a lot of real stuff. We talk about a lot of family issues and job issues and just real world things. And we always joke like we're solving the world's problems, but a lot of good does come from those conversations. So I figured it would be valuable to share some of those conversations on the podcast. And it's helpful not just to firemen, but it can be helpful and entertaining to anybody. So check that out. Also, if you want to check out and support our business, Engine House Designs, you can click the link that just popped up on your screen, enginehousedesigns.com. And again, the business completely sponsors, I say completely, we have some sponsors now, which I'll get to in a second, but it essentially completely supports the podcast. So by showing support to the business, you show support to the show and vice versa. Now, as far as sponsorships, we do have one other sponsor besides my business, and that's the Kitchen Table Foundation. So go check them out, kitchentablefoundation.org. Great organization doing amazing things for first responders, and they can support you in multiple different ways. I've been working with them for the last couple months, and great group of people. And like I said, just showing a lot of support and doing a lot of work for first responders. So go check them out. the Kitchen Table Foundation at thekitchentablefoundation.org. All right. What we're really here for is, like I said, the question challenge, 30-day question challenge. And this is day number 7, question number 7. And today's question is, would you rather be wildly successful and anonymous or wildly famous but average? And I think I'm going to try and provide viewpoints from both sides, but my answer to this question is that I would rather be wildly successful and anonymous. And the reason for that is because, for one, I don't need people to know who I am. Like, that doesn't define me as a person. I don't care if the whole world knows Cody Hill from Millington, Tennessee. But I do need people to know who my business is, and I do need people to know who my podcast is. So share the business, share the show, share this video. But as far as a person, I don't define myself by how many people know me, right? If nobody knows me, then that's no skin off my back. And what really does matter is how successful I can be in life. And this is something that I learned later on in life. I think a lot of us learn this later on in life. And if you watched day number 6, I talked about what advice I would give to my younger self. And I had mentioned that, you need to lock in your 20s. You need to focus on what you want to do when you graduate high school and focus on that, not be so hard on yourself when you mess up, blah, 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 blah. I'm not going to re-answer that question, but it kind of plays into this. And like I said, fame isn't the priority, and it should never be the priority. It's more about how successful I can be, right? As a father, as a husband, as a business owner, as a podcaster, right? Those are the things that I want to succeed. Now, with that, I think comes, if you have a very successful podcast like Joe Rogan, Theo Von, Tucker Carlson, I name those because those are the big ones that I listen to, Andy Frisella, you'll become sort of famous amongst that group of people that listen to those shows. So I think the fame will sort of come, but that's not what I'm focused on. And honestly, I don't care if that ever comes, because there's a lot of issues that come with that too, right? If you are wildly famous, then everything you do is under a microscope. If I get into an argument with somebody at the grocery store now, the only thing I have to worry about is the fact that I'm a fireman, and hopefully, I wasn't in the wrong and it doesn't have a negative impact on my career, right? But if I'm a wildly famous person, even if I'm standing up for myself in the right sense, that becomes a big deal, because Cody Hill, the podcast star, said this, and now it's on CNN and all the big TMZ and all this stuff, and you're just held under a spotlight for everything that you do. And so that's the main reason why, like I said, for one, it doesn't define me, but for two, everything you do is ridiculed and examined and analyzed, and that's no life to live. And I think that's why a lot of like movie stars and musicians and stuff, they talk about feeling lonely and stuff like that. I think partially because they kind of reel back their personal life. And they talk about, everything you do is, like I said, analyzed and ridiculed. And not to mention, if everybody knew you were successful, then you're going to have people, coming out of the woodworks wanting money or wanting to ride your coattails, stuff like that. Now, for the other side of it, I'm going to try and answer this from a perspective where maybe you would want fame, but you're going to be average. And I think this sort of comes when you start becoming successful in things that you do. So, like you start, I'll use my life as an example. I started a podcast. I currently have 6 episodes released, and I have over 500 streams already. Okay. And that's just a drop in the water, right? Compared to other podcasts compared to other content creators, business owners, whatever. That's very small. It's very, like I said, dropping the bucket. But when you get bigger, when you have your first 1,000 subscribers, or when you get 10,000 subscribers, or whatever, you start to become popular on YouTube, you hit those first milestones, you are becoming kind of famous in the creator world, in the YouTube world, and you're still pretty average, right? And that's a good place to be, right? Because people like you for who you are. And but also that becomes, I guess this kind of goes back to my answer for this question. People like you for who you are. Well, when you get to that point, this becomes a job. You talk about, have you ever listened to somebody that has 1 million subscribers on YouTube? They talk about it's not what it was when I first joined YouTube as a creator and started making these videos and stuff like that. It's very much a job now. Because great, you hit 1 million subscribers, you're making good money. Now you have to keep them, and you have to keep them entertained. So I did a poor job of saying why you should be wildly famous and average, but I guess it just goes back to, that's not my answer. I don't want to be wildly famous and average. I would much rather be successful and anonymous, and that's because of all those things. You're going to be constantly viewed under a microscope. You're going to be ridiculed for everything you do if you're famous. The fame doesn't pay the bills. The success does. And then you have all these people looking at you like, what's next? What are you going to produce next? And not that if you're successful, people won't do that. But I think there's a lot less pressure because people don't know who you are. So they're not coming to you directly like, what are you going to do next? What's your next great idea? You know? And plus, like I said, people are going to want more when you're famous. So I guess that's my answer for question number 7, day number 7. Like I said, hopping on here, having fun. If you would like to ask a question for me to answer, you can drop that in the comments, or you can DM me. I'm going to keep it completely anonymous. This is just for fun, just for practice, because like I said, I've said in the previous videos, we are going to start live streaming all of our podcast episodes. You will also be able to catch the actual release of the episode every other Friday after it's been edited and post-production work and everything like that. So check those out. Like I said, you can check out the podcast on YouTube. Let's see, we got a comment on here. It says, once you become famous, it's what you can do for me now instead of I like you for you. Exactly. And that's that's what I'm talking about, is people are going to want so much when you become famous, and you might not even be highly successful. It's just that now people know who you are, and people are going to want to ride that coattail. And if you're famous and successful, they're definitely going to, hey man, can I borrow this? Or, hey, can I get a job? And it's just not ideal. So, but like I said, if you'd like to support the podcast, it's The Engine House on Apple, Spotify, Engine House Podcast on YouTube, or you can search The Engine House, and you can listen to all the episodes there. If you want to support the business, enginehousedesigns.com. Like I said, supporting either one will help the other, because it's all mine. They're all interlinked. They all run together. And if you don't want to spend any money, the easiest way to support both of those is just to share it with a friend. Share this video, share the episodes on YouTube. We're also on TikTok and Instagram. And we have that new community group on Facebook where you can join the discussion on all the episodes. So, but that is day number 7, question number 7. Let me know what you think and which one you would rather be in the comments if you catch this after the stream. And we will see y'all tomorrow. Or no, I work tomorrow. We will see y'all on Sunday for day 8, question 8. Thanks for tuning in.